There are a tremendous amount of teams on Upset Watch this weekend.
Get ready for the 3-point stance. 3 different minds, 3 different opinions. 3 dudes talking ball. It's Kenton. It's Jay. It's Zach. Time to bring the heat, boys.
Yes, it's the 3-point stance. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. Zach Blackerby, Jay Smith, Kenton Gibbs. Who's ranked too high right now? We jump into that, as well as what in the world is going on in the SEC. The biggest game this weekend, LSU at Texas A&M. But Upset Watch. Guys, the expanded college football playoff has made so many more of these games matter. Made so many more of these games at this point of the season have playoff implications. So I've got 7 games here that I'm going to read through, and I want you guys to tell me, like, is there like a legitimate chance that the favorite is on Upset Watch, and what kind of playoff implications this could have? Y'all could also tell me, like, no, this one's not worth talking about. So, Ken, let's start with Washington at Indiana. Indiana's a 6.5-point favorite, according to our friends at FanDuel. Quarterback concerns now. Is Indiana on Upset Watch?
Absolutely. They should definitely be on Upset Watch. I mean, Rourke was a key piece of what got this thing going. He was the engine in the car. If you take the engine out, you think the car's still going to roll at the same level? You know, your engine swapping down here potentially. Yeah. So how could you possibly not have Indiana on upset alert? They're an exciting story. They're one of the most exciting teams in the nation. They are playing some very, very intriguing ball, hitting big plays all the time. With that being said, they were hitting those big plays because they had a quarterback who could not only make the right read, but deliver the ball deep in Rourke. So with him out, I'm not sure if this offense continues to roll at the same pace, which definitely puts you in a little bit of worry against Washington, even though they're not the Washington team of last year.
Yeah. Jay, one thing, though, like these teams, these Big Ten teams that are having to travel so far, like with the exception – I was about to say with the exception of Oregon, but that's not true. Penn State going to USC is really the only one where we've seen a Big Ten team kind of do one of these new version of the Big Ten road trips. To me, I think that helps Indiana. That's why I was a little hesitant to put them on this list. But the quarterback thing, as Ken says, is a major concern here.
Yeah, going from west to east usually isn't that big of a problem, but it typically depends on kickoff. So this is 11 a.m. So this is what, 8? Well, it's 11 a.m. So it's what, 9 a.m. on the West Coast. Not too bad. You know, get up a little bit earlier than you normally would. It's like getting up a little bit earlier to go for a run because you know you got a really busy day at work. You usually have a little bit more pep in your step if you're getting to. If this game was at night, I would be very concerned about Washington because then in that late afternoon sugar rush drops and, you know, the blood sugar levels fall and you start getting exhausted and you start getting tired faster. So I don't think going from west to east is the problem. That east to west, though, it can kick your butt. This game is going to be intriguing because Taven Jackson is the backup quarterback there at Indiana. He's a former recruit at Tennessee. He was one of Heupel's boys. And he looked decent running the offense when Rourke went out. But I don't know how much that we can trust him to actually lead them in this game. Washington looks pretty solid overall on the defensive side of the ball. And they gave it to Michigan, which everybody was surprised when I was on my Bleacher Report show. I told them, no, Washington's going to beat Michigan. The spread is ridiculous that Washington's a favorite. Got to give it to Jed Fish. He knows what he's doing up there. He's done a really good job not only taking over for Kellen DeBoer, bringing in just enough of the right players, but also coaching up the current ones. I think Washington's going to go over to Indiana and pull out this win because I don't know if Jackson's actually ready, even though this is his 3rd year in college football.
Yeah. All right, my next one is number 12, Notre Dame, at number 24, Navy. Notre Dame is a 12.5-point favorite. That line, I don't hate that line, but man, it'd be great for America. It'd be great for America if Navy could find a way to win this football game.
Personally, I think that there is an upset watch here for Notre Dame. We saw Notre Dame struggle against Northern Illinois, and basically Northern Illinois just punched them in the mouth. And that's exactly what Navy's going to do in this game. And they've been doing it all season. They just punch you in the mouth. Is Riley Leonard going to be able to drum up enough offense to help Notre Dame get the ball moving? And will their defense be prepared for all the weirdness of Navy football? I don't know. I don't know how much of Notre Dame's defense I trust, even though I think they're a solid defense. But Navy's going to punch him in the mouth. Will the Irish be ready for that?
I think this goes beyond weirdness of the offense and is, are you going to be prepared to defend that triple option? Yeah. I am looking at a very, very, very concerning trend with Riley Leonard. As a matter of fact, Riley Leonard is the reason that I no longer believe that any one-year transfer quarterbacks should be going to new schools or trying anything with new schools, because to say that he has been underwhelming as a passer would be an understatement. Now, here's what I do know about that Navy defense. They are swarming. They may not be the biggest, but they play physical. They all are running to the ball like their hair is on fire. I would say they're running in that thing like they're going to war, but they're a service academy, so of course they do. With that being said, this spread is definitely a rat line. There is no way Notre Dame covers that spread. There is not a world where Notre Dame covers that spread. And if they do win, I see it being a one-touchdown game where, like, potentially maybe at the end they get a pick six or something to make somebody get a bad bet here. But I don't see them covering this line. And I'm very leery of a team that struggled to stop the run against Northern Illinois, going up against a triple option team that is swarming with a quarterback who the best thing he does is run the football. I'm worried. I think Navy definitely is going to take it to him in this one.
Yeah. I'm pretty close to picking Navy. And then I didn't chime in on the first one, but I think Indiana does hold off Washington. Number 21, Missouri. At number 15, Alabama. Alabama, a 13.5-point favorite. That spread seems a little too big for me. I think Alabama is on upset watch.
I want to be very clear about this. I'm not saying that the SEC is not a good conference. I'm not saying that the SEC, because I know we got two SEC guys on this show, but I want to be very respectful of my co-hosts here. But what the hell has Missouri done all year to say, hey, we're special, we deserve to be ranked, we deserve to be in a meaningful game? What have they done?
The answer to that, Kitten, is they beat Ohio State in a bowl game last year.
Oh,
that's the funny thing. That's the funny thing is why
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
Here's the thing. I love Eli Drinkwitz. He was the last offensive coordinator in Raleigh to not screen us into the death. I mean, I tell you what, these offensive coordinators in Raleigh, I don't want to check their phone because I know their screen time is through the damn roof, if you catch my drift. Every time you look up, they're running a wide receiver screen, running back screen. It's been a persistent problem for years.
Screen.
And Eli Drinkwitz solved that problem. But what the hell have they done to make you believe that they can hang in with a legitimate football team? No, Bama ain't on upset watch. Bama is about to beat these boys' heads into the dirt. They looked lackadaisical, soft, and non-physical last time Mizzou played a real and legitimate football team. I'm sorry to tell everybody. I'm not meaning to take any shots at anybody on this show because I know how people get about that team, but they ain't played nobody in a minute. The Massachusetts Minutemen? Am I supposed to be moved by that? The Fighting Peyton Thorns? I'm supposed to be moved? Come on, man.
Anytime they played a team with a pulse, they've struggled majority of the game. And I hate to say it, Auburn should have won that game. Yeah. I'm sorry, Zach. But because that game was done. That game was done. And that was just mismanagement of play call. Now, I don't think that Alabama's going to lose this game. Well, put it this way. If Kalen DeBoer wants to be able to leave the state of Alabama with his clothes on his back, they ain't losing this game. They should go out there and put a big burger on their head and destroy them just like Texas A&M did. There's no reason for Alabama to not run the score up in this game. They have to. They're in desperation mode now. They're more desperate than Missouri is. Missouri is not going to be as desperate. And like I said, anytime they play a team with a pulse, they struggle. BC, Vandy, right? Texas A&M, Auburn. If you got a pulse, they're out there punching them in the mouth. I don't think Missouri's good enough.
Yeah. All right, we've got more teams on upset to watch that we will jump into on tomorrow's show. LSU at Texas A&M, the biggest game of the weekend. What does it mean? That's coming up right here on the 3-Point Stance. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Roy. Return on you. So far this season, we've pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player of your choosing. And the best part is it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. The 3-Point Stance Roy Player of the Week. We'll go with Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders, the Colorado quarterback, helped lead them to that 34-7 win over Arizona, and Shedeur popped off. 23 of 33, 250 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. Shedeur Sanders, Roy is throwing $100 your way, and hey, you should join me. You should join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Show Shedeur Sanders or your favorite player the love and keep them connected to your school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets up your team for success. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more info. Roy, support the players and change the game. We've got LSU at Texas A&M. And I mean, honestly, going into the season, if you would have told me that this game had the ramifications that it does this weekend, I would have been shocked. I wouldn't have believed you. I didn't think LSU, I guess going into the season, I thought LSU was a little overranked, and then I didn't believe in Mike Elko in his first season in College Station. Both of these teams, I think, are really solid teams. They're both somewhat battle-tested to some extent. What does this game mean, Kenton, as far as who wins it, and then more importantly, it might mean even more for who loses it?
Well, I strongly disagree here because here's a fun fact about the SEC, right? These are two of the teams that are not ranked that highly compared to some of their peers in the SEC, right? When you look at the SEC overall, these are the 3rd and 4th highest ranked teams. And yet, these are the only 2 teams that are undefeated in conference. So I want you to take a second and think about that for a minute. We could potentially be looking at an SEC championship rematch based upon these 2 teams in this game. So I think that this is one of those games that, while I want to say, oh, it feels like an elimination game for Texas A&M. If Texas A&M loses this game, they're for sure out. Well, hold on. In the words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. They've got Texas coming down the pipeline to end the season. And we know how much Jay loves them, so I don't want to say nothing too bad about Texas right now. But you see what I'm saying here in terms of I'm sorry, Texas superfan Jay Smith. You know we still love you.
But say his full name, please, Kenton. Thank you.
Yeah, Texas superfan Jay Smith is how he will be addressed from now on. And the same thing for LSU. They have Bama coming up. They have Vandy, who's now ranked, coming up. And both of these teams could potentially be in the SEC championship game. So to me, this game feels a lot like Oregon-Ohio State in terms of implications, even if it's not exactly the same level of football, because I don't think that this game alone eliminates either one of these teams. I think this game here is like, all right, whoever wins gets an inside track, loser take care of business the rest of the way, and we'll see how the dust settles at this on the end of this thing.
You know what jumps out to me in this game, and me and Zach talked about this in the green room for a minute, that this is the beauty of having a 12-team playoff. And this is why I say that. This game, in a way, does have playoff implications. The loser on this team will be on the bubble now. So we always talked about the bubble with college basketball, which is always fun to talk about. This team is right there. They're the last 4 out, last 4 in. And we love watching and speculating as you get to the end of the season. This game is the bubble watch game because look at this. After LSU plays this game, they've got Bama at the crib. Then they have Vanderbilt, and then they wrap the season up with Oklahoma. You've got Texas A&M, who has South Carolina on the road. They travel to Auburn, in which we've always heard the voodoo at Jordan-Hare. Weird things happen, and there's an opportunity there. And then they wrap the season up at home with a renewal of a rivalry in state versus Texans, in which we all know they hate each other. So this has huge playoff implications because, Kenton, you are 100% correct. There's a chance that they could run the table on both sides and end up seeing each other again in the SEC championship. But then Georgia's going to have an argument of getting in there as well if they also keep winning. So we're going to see a massive amount of controversy once
Hold
the
on.
season ends.
Hold on. Y'all don't think either of these teams are going to win out after this game, do you?
I think it's very possible.
I think it's possible.
I'm not saying I bet my house on it, but I'm saying it is very possible. I don't think either one of these teams have a schedule that I'm like, oh, that's not malleable at all. Consider this a loss, consider that a loss. You tell me which one of these games LSU, or you tell me which one of these games LSU is going to be an underdog in from here going forward. Bama, Bama at home. Florida.
Bama is my answer.
Vanderbilt at home, Oklahoma at home. Which one of those games will they be a dog in that you feel comfortable?
None of them. None of them.
I'm saying that you feel comfortable taking the opposition with the spread. Whatever the spread is, you're like, hey, I'll take Bama. I'll take Bama. You don't feel comfortable with that.
I would take Bama against LSU, and I would take Texas against Texas A&M.
I agree with Texas against Texas A&M. I agree with that one 1,000%. But Bama against LSU, I'm not buying that. I'm sorry. I'm not buying it because for whatever reason, as much hell as I give Brian Kelly, I am also not a guy who refuses to change my opinion when new information is presented. And the new information is that he's got his team showing up in big games. Yeah. I don't know how this team lost to USC. I am literally like, every time I think about it, part of my mind explodes here. I only got so many neurons left, so I got to stop doing that. But in all seriousness, LSU is showing up in big moments. And maybe I'm wrong for drinking Brian Kelly Kool-Aid in 2024. But I am not in on DeBoer, especially in year one. I'm just not there anymore. I think that team has a better chance of running the table than Texas A&M. But with Texas A&M, I don't think that Texas is such a buzzsaw. It's like it's impossible that they get a win there because Elko is an Aggie man in Aggie land, and weird things happen when you get that weird combination of weirdos together.
Listen to this. Listen to this. This is what's crazy to me. Texas A&M, we'll say Texas A&M wins this game. LSU loses. Okay. Then Texas A&M loses the last game of the season to Texas. There is a chance that Texas A&M, LSU, Georgia, and Texas all have one loss at the end of the season. How wild is that going to be on trying to decide the two teams that end up in the SEC championship game?
Yeah, and those are your four bids, most likely.
Yep, there you go.
Somebody's going to argue and scream, well, 15 needs to be in from the SEC. They just cannibalized each other so much. Yeah.
That's exactly what the argument is.
The conversation around that will be interesting, too, because it's like it's almost better to not play in your conference championship game at that point.
Get rewarded for not
yes. And that's where you can say that the playoff can hurt the conference championship meeting, but it also means you can help it because you don't want to play it because you don't want to risk players getting hurt, but you do want to play it so you can get that auto bid and the first week bye. Yeah. So now you got to make the decision. Which one matters more, a bye week or potentially risking injury? That is going to be the conundrum we're going to deal with. And honestly, that's what makes the game so damn exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I also, just staying on the topic of LSU's schedule, they were only like a 2.5 favorite at Arkansas last week, and they blew them out. I think there was a lot of pressure on that game, and we didn't really spend a whole lot of time talking about that. But the fact that they showed up the way that they did, I think that was actually a pretty big deal. So
it's the fact that the defense has shown up. The defense is starting to show up now. The offense is 8th in offensive efficiency based upon ESPN's FPI, which is I did not think their offense was going to do that. That freshman, Caden Durham, I know all about him. He's from Oklahoma. He moved to Duncanville, Texas, and balled out. The Sooners tried to get him. Dude's a monster, and I did not I knew he was going to be great because he's a track kid. I didn't think he was going to be this amazing, and he's going to run track for LSU as well. Shoot, they better find a way to bubble wrap that kid and say, Don, we don't want you to run track. We want you to just stay on the football field because he has changed that offense.
Jay, I can't imagine how tough it is for you being in Oklahoma and being such a big Texas fan that you.
Wow!
I just
so you
can't
too?
Believe that.
You too?
So,
you too?
Hey,
you see he's got orange on the shirt today. You see, he still loves Texas a little bit.
He can't help himself. Who's ranked too high? We tell you exactly who in just a moment. Right here on the 3 Point Stance.
Hey, NFL fans, can you ready to start the season with some big games? You can do that in big returns at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you want to check some live stats. You can view play-by-play and so much more from the exact same spot where you place your bets. Like right now, we just talked about. You've got a lot of big games this weekend. Looking at the spreads, you've got Pittsburgh being a 5.5-point favorite at home against Syracuse. That one may have some implications. And FanDuel has all the spreads that you're looking for. So make sure you go check them out. They're going to get you started with a $200 bonus, guaranteed bonus bets whenever you place your $5 bet. So go check them out over at FanDuel.com.
Thank you so much for making the 3-point stance your first listen every single day. Who's ranked too high? Who's ranked too low? I'll go first. I think Ole Miss is ranked too high at 18.
You stole my pick. You stole my pick.
I'm so sorry.
Because
Disrespect.
The nerve of Lane Kiffin to have me sitting up here saying he's going to get the job done and Brian Kelly is a bedwetter and he's going to show up in a big game. Jackson, I have never seen a man look so defeated in a mid-season press conference in my life than what I saw after that game from Jackson Dart. Hey, Jackson, what did they do to beat you? They did some game plan stuff. They did stuff. I have never seen such loser behavior.
Head too. He's like,
that's what I'm saying.
He's like a Sith Lord or something.
It was pure. Well, guess what? The powers of the dark side ain't what they used to be if they Sith Lords, because that was god-awful.
I guess not.
I don't understand this team being ranked at 18 because who's their best win? A South Carolina team that has a losing record in conference? Is it a Kentucky team? I don't understand what world we're saying you have 2 losses, but you belong in front. Actually, they didn't beat Kentucky. I'm sorry. So their best
at
win
the crib.
So their best win is South Carolina or Wake Forest. Wake Forest.
Yikes.
Listen. That team is not serious. If I was Lane Kiffin and people were saying, are you going to Florida? Are you going to where are you going? I would say I'm going my ass to work on Monday because as you can see, my team is not as good as we thought they were. That's where I'm going because, boy, I have seen nothing of this team. And I love me some Stephen Willis. That's my brother. That's my Tiger fan in arms. But I am so disappointed in this Ole Miss team. It hurts my heart to see how disappointing this team is after I said Ole Miss is going to upset the apple cart in the SEC this year. They're going to rearrange that order in the SEC. They ain't rearranged a damn thing.
Yeah, they're probably the biggest disappointment for me this season. I really expected Ole Miss with the schedule that they had to be able to run that table and get themselves in the playoffs. And now everybody that had them initially are like, crap, why did I believe in Lane Kiffin? But if it's me, I'm going to be honest. I hate to say it, but this is also the reason why I hate any rankings before week 4, week 5-ish. I think that rankings shouldn't exist until week 4 or week 5 because why is Clemson number 9 in the country? They got blasted by Georgia, and they haven't actually played anyone this season, at all. They haven't. They haven't played anyone. They're 6-1, yes, but who have they beaten? Who have they beaten?
I understand that, but there has to be some credence and value to winning football games. At some point in time, we've got to say, you know what? Be damned with the, hey, who's on your schedule or what conference are you in and all that. At some point in time, winning football games has to matter. Let me read off the point spreads from all of their games here after the Georgia game. 46 points, 24 points. And really, that was a 24-point spread because they called the dogs off at halftime. 26 points, 16 points, 35 points. 17 points. The closest game that they've had since that game was 2 touchdowns and 2-point conversions on top of it. I'm sorry. They whooping the wheels off, folks. You got to acknowledge that.
You that is true. I am not disagreeing with that. I'm still asking the question, who have they played? It's like Pitt.
Who would you rank? Who behind them would you rank higher than Clemson?
Ooh.
You gonna rank Iowa State above them?
Give me Indiana. I think Indiana should be up there. Look at the way that they're winning their games, right? They're undefeated. They're blowing out everybody in their games too. So that's one. There you go.
See, but this is and see, Zach, this is why I'm glad that y'all got me on this show because it always ends up like this, doesn't it? It always ends up with one guy from the conference that nobody else is from having a POP hold it down because you sat up here and said to me with the straightest face I've ever seen. They ain't played nobody.
Say that
Well,
about everybody.
let's read off the names here of the Indiana wins. FIU, Western Illinois, UCLA, UNC Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern, and Nebraska.
Go ahead and tell me about them scores, though. Tell me about them scores, though.
Hey,
That's what we did with Clemson, right? That's what the argument always is.
I agree that they're taking folks to the woodshed, but to me, you can't say Clemson ain't playing nobody, and then say, oh, but those mighty Northwesterners, they're not even fighting Pat Fitzgeralds anymore. You can't tell me, hey, that team they're beating the brakes off people, but Clemson beating the brakes off people don't matter no more. That's crazy. That's crazy. Because even if you were to move Clemson back, right? Even if I were to say, hey, I'll give you Indiana, let Indiana jump in front of them. Okay, that's great. That's one spot. How many teams would we put right now in front of an Ole Miss? How many teams right now would we put in front of a Missouri? Right now, if we had to say, hey, where is this team ranked in your opinion? I don't think either one of those teams would be in my top 25, period.
Nope.
You would have Missouri in your top 25?
No. I'm sorry. Beating Ohio State in the bowl game last year means nothing to me. That means
that's why
less
I hate early
than
rankings.
nothing to me.
But this goes back to what you just said about Clemson, is like at some point winning games has to matter.
I agree that winning games has to matter, but there's also a way in which you win those games to where I don't lie to people and say style points don't matter to me, point spreads don't matter to me. I'm absolutely one of those guys that's like, hey, if you beating the brakes off folks, you're beating the brakes off folks, and we're going to rock out with that. But I just don't see it. And again, I know everybody going to say, oh, you just hate Missouri. You just hate. Again, love me some Coach Drake. I promise you, Drake, if you want to come on back to NC State, you know what I mean? I ain't going to be able to say, hey, we got to have a conversation. But in all seriousness, I just don't see it. I just don't see it in terms of, again,
I'm asking you this specifically, Kitten, because you cover the conference.
Let's talk about it.
Is Miami ranked too high then? If that's the logic, is Miami ranked too high?
No, because I'm never going to demote you for winning the games. Had Jay said, I want BYU in front of Clemson, right? Had he said, I want one of those undefeated Big 12 teams, Iowa State in front of Clemson. Hey, listen. He
said Indiana. Indiana's undefeated.
Indiana is undefeated. Absolutely right. But
they're Big Ten. They don't count.
But no. But there's the argument of who have they played as opposed to BYU and Iowa State, who have both played better teams. BYU beat SMU, who at the time we thought to ourselves, oh, that's nothing. SMU has said, hey, the Pony Express is here again. Eric Dickinson is walking around with his chest poked up. Craig James is walking around with his chest real big on ESPN's campus. Hey, you see what my boys are doing down there? So I think that both of those teams have arguments for, hey, we've beaten good and quality teams in a way that some of these other folks don't.
Got it.
That's a fair argument.
I've got to take for tomorrow. I was about to just waste it. I got to take for tomorrow's show.
Save it. But no, I think it's a fair argument on that. And that's where that ranking conversation comes in about it being it too early or too late. Because out of all the 6-1 teams, Clemson is the only one that's destroying the bad teams that they're playing. All the other teams that are playing bad teams or teams that you don't even really consider anything worth a darn, some of those games are still ending up close. Like Miami. Miami's undefeated, but they have a lot of games that are close. And that's so you have that question of, I've had people say, why isn't Miami ranked higher than Texas or Ohio State or Penn State? Look at the resume. They haven't blown out anybody, but they have one game. So winning does matter. The way you win can also matter sometimes. But the question we have to ask is, when is style points just too much to really consider? Because you got to also weigh the competition. I do think that Miami probably should be top 5 right now. I don't think they're a top 5 team in the country, but I think they should be ranked that. But rankings are always subjective. And that's the thing that makes it so tough, but also makes it very annoying of having rankings before the 5th week of the season.
All right. Thank you so much for making the 3 Point Stance your first listen every single day. Go ahead and check out our buddy Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football on the same YouTube channel or podcast feed, however you're consuming the show. For Kitten Gibbs and Jay Smith, I'm Zach Blackerby. This has been the 3 Point Stance.